Hi friends, welcome. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping in. And today we're going to do a fun project and we are going to put a picture on wood using wax paper. Now, there are many different techniques for putting pictures onto wood. There are so many different techniques and they all have a different outcome. And depending on what you want, the products that you have available, it's kind of cool to just have different ways to do it. So I am going to show you how I put pictures on wood using wax paper. Now, for me, I like to use my Cricut design space when I do this. And if you don't have it, you don't have to. You can just print your picture. I do it because it allows me to like mirror my image and all of that stuff really easily. So that's the reason I do, completely up to you. So I came into Cricut Design Space, I pulled in my image, and then I am going to edit it to the size that I want. And I'm making this about 5 by 5, just because the piece that I'm doing is a little smaller and I just want it to be a little bigger than my piece. It doesn't have to, but for what I'm doing, it is. You're going to adjust that to what works for you. And then I'll go to make it. Now, when I go to make it, I like to move my picture to the center because I am using wax paper and I'm going to have that wax paper taped to another piece of paper, and I'm printing on the wax paper. So I like to move it to the center. And also because you don't want to touch your picture when it prints out, that makes it a little easier. And then I'm gonna go to my mirror. I'm going to mirror it, especially if there are words, because you are going to be putting it upside down after you print it. And then I like to take off bleed. The bleed is so that when you cut with your Cricut, you don't have spaces that don't have color on it. It sort of goes outside the spaces. And if I'm not cutting it with my Cricut, then I like to take the bleed off because it makes everything a little more smooth. So then I'm going to, from there, I'm just going to go next and I'm going to print it. All right, friends, so now I am going to print. I have my wax paper and I have just a piece of copy paper. I like to tape my wax paper onto my copy paper so that it has some stiffness to it and it doesn't get stuck in my printer. And I just cut my wax paper to where it will fit on the center of my copy paper. I don't want my edges going over. Now, on your wax paper, both sides feel like waxy, but there's one side that is more waxy than another. Make sure you put that one up, facing up. And then when I tape this on my paper, I like to make sure that I get my corners really well also, because I don't want it to pull up. The ink is going to be just sort of sitting on top of your wax paper and you don't want it to touch anything. And then I put it in my printer, I printed it, and here is the resulting piece. As you can see, it printed really nicely. Now you want to be very careful and not touch this, because if you touch the ink, it will definitely smudge. Remember, your ink is only sitting on top of your wax paper. Now, you can see I didn't take my own advice. When I moved my paper, I almost dropped it and I smudged the top of it, you can see. But it's okay because my wood piece that I'm going to be using is much smaller than my picture and I will be able to fit it on there just fine. And I'm kind of cutting my picture out to give me less paper around to work with so that I don't smudge anything that I shouldn't. Now, if this was the exact size of my picture, I'd have to reprint it because I smudged it. But I don't have to because I did make it bigger, knowing that sometimes that happens to me. So I'm going to take it, and remember, ink side on your star, and I'm just going to set it down. And then I like to slowly just start smoothing it over, and be careful because it's easy to move it. See what I did there? Now I can just sort of line it back up and it'll be fine, but it's really easy to move it and mess up your picture. So, put your finger down like I did in the center there, smush it, and then I like to put a piece of paper over it just because I don't want the wax paper to stick to my iron. And then I do it on 345 for about 30 seconds. And after it's done, I lift it up, and also I like to put a piece of paper underneath because especially if it's bigger, then I'm not, covering the whole thing and I don't want to get it on my mat. But you can see how pretty this turned out. And I like this. This gives a little bit more of a rustic type of look. And, there are other methods that give you like a precise look, but this is more of like a rustic look, and I really love this technique. There's a lot of things that it's useful for, and I think it's very fun for gift giving. If you guys like the video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't done so, hit subscribe. Thank you so much, friends. I appreciate you, and I'll see you later. Bye.